So, back in like the late 90s and the early 2000s, which was undoubtedly the peak of my music career, if you want to judge it like that. When I was back home, when I wasn't touring as a support act and whatnot with other bands, and I was on the south of England circuit, the local circuit, I used to do a lot of double headers with a very dear friend of mine whose name was Dan Newbury, or Dan Backhurst, depending on which fucking family member he got on with that week. And some of you Chichester folk may remember him well, or not that fondly. He was a very arrogant chap, but a very charismatic one. Of all the guitar players I've ever known, he was by far the most naturally gifted. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I want to talk to you just briefly about learning to play, about learning new skills. I'm not so naturally talented as Dan was. And I say was because Dan is no longer with us. He had a fatal drug overdose deliberately in a very, in the throes of a very ugly relationship breakup. And he was a mind-blowing fingerpicker, which is why we did these double headers, because we were very much both singer-songwriters, both fingerpickers, both with something original. Hard to tell which one of us was better, so we'd switch who played first, who played second, we'd take turns. And we were quite competitive, but had huge respect for each other, and this is where we differed, and this is what I want to try and teach you. Don't worry if you have no talent. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're all shit at first, and the thing that gets us there is spending time on the fretboard. Time on fretboard is the only true currency of getting good at the guitar. Now, what gave me the edge over Dan, in the end, was Dan, if he found a chord change to be difficult, he would bluff it. So he'd get these like click notes. Whereas if I find a chord change that's difficult, I will focus on it and just play it over and over and over again. I mean, like, people that have lived with me in the past, my girlfriend now, will tell you how fucking boring it is to be next to me practicing guitar, because it's like, I'm not always jamming like you hear it. Sometimes it's literally, I'm just going over and over. It's like hammering nails. And I'll give you an example. Sometimes you can like write yourself into a corner. And I'll give you an example. The track I've got, a couple of tracks that I do live are really hard to play. One of them's Cemented Love. And it has this intro, which is like this, right? Song, right? Anyway, there's a bit where it goes back into that intro, so it goes back from this shape to that shape, and it's a bloody hard change. It's a fucking hard change, and you have to be bang on accurate for it to work, otherwise you get bluff notes. And so, I practice that chord change over and over again. I haven't actually for a long time, so it'll be rough. But that's an example. So, I've written something. It has to go back to that intro, but it's not a naturally flowing sort of something that you get when you play with yourself. You know, it's something that becomes the writing dictates the playing, not the playing dictating the writing. And it at first was like an insurmountable and impossible chord change, but I focused on it and I got it in the end. Very difficult track to play live. Yeah, so Dan would bluff it, and in the end that's what gave me the edge. That's what gave me the edge. But what was special about Dan was he taught me to appreciate really what I was doing. He would always ask me to play a particular song that's not a complicated song, because he enjoyed the place that it took him to in his head. And he'd always like, if we had a smoke or, you know, chase, and he'd be like, oh, play Eat Like a Cat, play Eat Like a Cat, man. Always asking me to play Eat Like a Cat, you know, it's like, you know. And he would just sit there with his eyes closed, soaking it up, and it, you know, I never really wanted to play that song. I didn't think it was quite good enough to be like A material. I've got like A and B and C material, and I never considered that A material. And it was Dan that kind of persuaded me. I always liked the lyrics, but never really liked the song. And you have to respect your audience. But it does basically the root. It doesn't matter how much natural talent you got. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can have all the natural talent in the world. If you don't work, if you don't put time on the fretboard, you're not going anywhere. You're gonna be an also-ran. Okay. You can have all the natural talent in the world. Dan, by far the most naturally talented player in the world, but lazy. And I would tell him this, and he knew it. But like it seems almost every important person in my musical life is no longer with us. And he would love to sing this. He would love this here. He would love it. So Dan, this is for you, my friend. Sorry. Let's get a very quick rendition. I'm not going to play it all, just a little bit. the ground, still reaching for blue, and now swoop down to all that has passed. You're lost in the jungle, you're running too fast. Run away, run hard. I, the lizard by the brook, cast my spell by my lyric book. Arranging gods and just pieces in my regime. Won't you pull me back from my second skin? Well, again and again. Run from the fire with me. Eat like a cat and keep your mystery. Fly like a pilot, don't eat. Eat like a cat, keep your mysteries. Thank you, Dan. I miss you, buddy.